Hey, and welcome to another episode of Making the Right Play. I'm your host, Ishi, with my co host.
Maneth?
Today we have a host conversation. We don't have a guest today, but we do have a host conversation on the topic of leaving home. Isn't that right, Maneth?
Yep. I thought that's one thing the both of us could like really kind of dive into, at least for the duration of the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we both had like different kind of leaving home stories because
Leaving
I
home.
left
Yeah.
home when I like halfway through high school. Like I left home after I finished O levels, just into grade 11. Um, and then
Yeah.
Maneth, you left home and you went to university, right?
Yeah, like after being up like 18 to 18ish years. Yeah.
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 Yeah. How was that? Because I know, like, before you left home, you were like traveling and doing stuff on your own for a while and things like that. So, like, I guess you were like, getting ready for it, getting prepped for it.
Yeah, I think so. Um, yeah, I think the last year before I went, it was a lot of like, the gap year was very healthy for me personally,
Hmm.
because like I felt like school, especially it was the last bit of school was like really hectic, right? Because like with the entire scene that happened to my father and all that, it was very hectic. So I think like there wasn't enough time for me to really like enjoy what was going on, especially like and this is something like, and I feel like this I could explore later, but like I always feel like my childhood is kind of like robbed away from like all these like due to all of these like kind of like I don't know like circumstance like the kind of mishaps and the downfalls that we kind of went through together.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that last year I think I was very much spending time on just like investing time in my relationships and just like spending a lot of time with my family and stuff like that, and it was kind of a good time for me to kind of like regain all that lost time.
yeah,
And I'm so glad I didn't leave to university right after school. Yeah, I definitely needed it. And on your end, I think something I was very curious about is that like you left at a time where like all these like friendships were like, kind of like forming, and you know like I feel like the 14 to 15-year range, like when you're hitting high school, is like that's the time where like we were forming like really strong, very strong relationships with people, right? And this is the kind of time where people either get into like romantic relationships or like like this is where they like really go out of the house and kind of like spend time outside and like you know like work on their your relationship on the on that end of things. So did you feel like you kind of lost out on like that part of your life, and like how do you really feel about that though?
yeah. That's a good question. Like, I guess like I left when I was. Maybe I'll contextualize this for somebody who's doing.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go for it.
yeah, I
Yeah,
left right after O levels, like I said, and I moved to Canada. And like
yeah,
part of my time away from home, I was with my family who actually moved here because my sister went to uni in Canada. So I came here with them. But yeah, like you're right, because it did feel like I wasn't aware of this when I left. Like I thought, like like, oh, Ambeyalu Hamadami di Yele. So like I left, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I said
yeah,
something in Sinhala. We'll have it translated at the
yeah,
bottom.
yeah.
But
No
yeah,
worries, no worries.
but I guess like I did make a lot of like lifelong lasting. I feel like they will be lifelong lasting relationships before I left Sri Lanka, and I also made a lot of relationships here in Canada with my friends at the new school, right? Uh,
Yeah,
but I do feel like I missed out on that very like critical bonding phase because that's when everybody
yeah,
got like super tight knit and super like close,
exactly.
right? So
Yeah,
like this is when like the seniors and juniors in Sri Lankan high schools, they were doing MUN, they were getting these conferences, they were like
yeah,
doing administrative duties, and they got time to like like horse around, and it just becomes it's like those are
yeah,
critical elements to like making friends and that was really the phase when people started like expanding their friend circles from like just like in your grade or in your class, right, to like people from
mm,
other schools and people it becomes a much wider range of friends and you make friends from a lot of different walks of life in that
yeah,
phase. And I definitely feel like I did miss out, and I think I started to become aware of that a little bit into like just a touch into my schooling here in Canada.
okay,
So I guess I don't have any regrets about it per se.
okay, okay. That's good.
It,
Yeah,
it is kind of disheartening to know that like I could have been part of that experience, but I wasn't. But like it was a sacrifice that I was glad to make because like
yeah,
I had things I had to do on my end. But
hmm,
yeah, that's like my sob story.
yeah. I get what you mean, because like, and I think it's very hard to like actually like say it, right, like kind of like say, okay, like I might have missed out on this. And I think the same for me, like in terms of sacrifice, in a sense, I think one sacrifice I always think about is just like on my end is just kind of leaving my family. Mostly that's the first level of like sacrifice I feel like I go through. And I think you and I messaged you sometime back about whether you were going home, and you were like, I'm spending time away from my family, and like that's a kind of sacrifice we have to make to kind of make our ends meet, right? And I think this thought that I always go through, like something that I just keep going back to is just like, okay, is this decision to come here, like, is it really kind of worth it? And obviously, like, you need the certain indicators, and you need to like kind of think about like all the sub decisions you made as soon as you came here. But at the same time, I think staying away from home is just like a tough experience, and I don't think like a lot of people like to directly admit it either, because like you leave all of that behind. And I think we are always very tempted to say that we live our best lives here. At least like in Sri Lanka, like a lot of people are so tempted to kind of say that you left this like horrible life to come here. But I think like my life back at home was also like really great, and all the friends I met there were really great too. And it's just that you make those sacrifices, kind of like it's basically a career decision to like just kind of live the life of like your dreams, in the sense that like to kind of like go about your career in the most intelligent way. But sometimes emotionally it's not the easiest thing for everyone to do, I guess. Like some people are
Yeah.
very very livid and very happy, but I think I definitely have that experience. So I kind of go back and forth for sure, because like for example, I haven't seen my mother in like what, like a year, like right now. And initially it was like 1.5 years, and I only saw like my mother and my brother for like 10 days, right? So
Yeah.
it's like it's definitely like hard to be away from her, especially like to me it's like when you lose like another parent, it's like the family that you have, you're very like very very tight, right? Because you went through like all this shit that like life kind of put across to you.
Yep.
And like right after that, when you have to like kind of separate, it's definitely like it's kind of difficult. But like I think something that you emphasize always is that sometimes you have to make the sacrifices for the long term good of things. And yeah, I think yeah, that's the only way you kind of can make up your mind about it. But I think
Yeah.
people should just more often than not be willing to kind of like accept the fact that it is difficult and this is not easy. And I think that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I don't know. This is from an outsider's perspective, but your
Yeah.
decision to move to Canada was definitely worth it. I don't think you can say it's not worth it.
Yeah, no, 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 I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying that. No, no, no,
Yeah.
not at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because you're doing fantastic, and you're gonna do great things. But I'm gonna stop hyping you up. But anyway,
yeah.
but like I do think like I was kind of more fortunate in terms of like the emotional impact of moving away, because I had like
Okay.
a kind of staged separation almost, right? Because like I
Okay.
like I had to like leave, quote unquote, like leave my friends behind, right? First
Yeah.
when I moved to Canada, right? And then I had to like work on forming new bonds, right? And then
Yeah.
I was kind of like, by the time I left for uni, which is when I left my family for good, I
Yeah.
well, not for good. I come back and visit them,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but when I left for uni, I was like, okay, like this is the process of like like establishing new relationships in a new place. Like I knew
Mhm.
what it was like, and I knew how to like get myself out there and things like that. Not that I did, but I tried.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in terms of that, like I essentially had some practice in leaving home. You can put it in like in
Okay.
that
Okay.
way.
Okay. I get what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you said, I also had like long stretches. I think I went like almost 2 years without seeing my my sisters and things like
Yeah.
that. So it is a hard time, like being in college, but like you've also got to realize like first of all, like with the world being the way it is, your parents are no more than a phone call away. Your
Yeah.
family is no more than a phone call away. Uh,
Yeah.
and your friends are no more than a phone call away. So like, and like even like a 10-minute phone call in these times provide so much relief. Uh,
Yeah.
like I might be having a rough week in school, and then I call my mom and I'll tell her, take 10 minutes, tell her about what's going on. It might not even be related to why I'm having a tough week. I'll just tell her about things I did, like the work I did, or what I did at lab and things like that. And for those like for a brief time, it lets takes the weight off your shoulders, and I think that's like one of the
Yeah.
nice things about leaving in this age. Uh, but yeah, like I think the emotional impact I was kind of ready for, embraced when I like left for good, so it wasn't as shocking to me. But
Okay. Okay.
speaking of which, I think like another important aspect of this is like culture shock, right? When you
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
go to a different country, and I know I
Okay.
experienced that to like the fullest extent when I came here to Canada. I'm pretty sure you did as well, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
where we go from like the whole like Sri Lankan culture of like order and
Yeah. Yeah.
respect,
Yeah.
and like this like almost authoritarian role of educators, to like it's here in Canada. and the US it's more relaxed. Like, say it's more liberal. It's like, you have your freedoms, and I think it makes more. I'm not like shitting on the Sri Lankan way of doing things.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
there is some sense to doing it, but I think that here it makes more sense to me as a whole the way they do it here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. I don't know what your take is, but
I
this.
think
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think there are like good things and bad things in the sense that like I think uh, there are certain avenues in the way things are set up over here where you can like straight up be disrespectful to like someone who is at a good educational capacity. But at the same time, I don't think people who are smart enough would kind of go down that route anyway.
Yep.
But like I think this like unquestioned form of respect in like Sri Lanka is like kind of the thing that like
It's a very
and
toxic environment, right? Because
I
like
think so. I think so.
you,
Yeah,
no
especially
matter
especially
no
at
matter
this
what
stage,
you're
right?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and 100%, like when you're in this like growing, like when you're building your knowledge base, it can be very toxic because you're expected to like kneel before authority, right? Even if
Yeah.
if you know that authority is wrong, right? Like
Yeah.
you're expected, like, oh, he's older
Yeah.
than you, oh, like, she's like this person, and you're like, well, I know I'm right, I know what you're doing is wrong, but like I can't
Yeah.
tell you this because A, like I'll get a lot of backlash for it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And B, like that backlash is gonna last a very long time for that. Like you can get
Yeah.
blackmailed pretty easily in Sri Lanka, right? But
For
here, I
sure.
think I think I had more liberty. Like, and I know you said something like, there are avenues to be disrespectful towards people, at like a high level of education, and I think it doesn't always have to be disrespect. It can be like, like dissent from what they said,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's totally
Yeah.
acceptable here. Like, like I was like, when I started doing my research job, I didn't know that, like, dissent from like the authority of the lab was okay, right?
Yeah.
Well, like I learned that later on, and like, in science, really, like the dissent of the minority is really valued because it helps you like find new things, and new issues. And like, for example, I was
Gotcha.
working on this like production system at one of my labs, and like I had to like go out there and say like, hey, like this layout we have is not going to work, and nobody's going to listen to the second year undergrad, right? Especially when you have a bunch of
Yeah.
postdocs, like a couple PhD students, like,
Yeah.
a couple professors who are the best in the world at what they're doing. But like, turned out I was right, right, and it helped the lab in the long run, right? And I think
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to make a contribution like that if I was in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that was not a culture shock, but like it was more of like a adapting to thing is like just people I've met over here. Like generally, like I think in the Western end of the world, like it's much more like of an individualistic culture, and people like I think like in the Eastern side of the world, it's more like collective, where like it's a I think it's a lot of signaling, right? Like signaling, okay, I'm doing this for this person, XYZ person. I think over here it's more of like I'm doing this for me kind of thing. And I think people are much more direct with what they have to say and what they want to do with their lives kind of thing. I think like that part of it was also nice. Where like I see a lot of people, like a lot of like brown people kind of come over here and like really kind of take charge of their lives much more than they did back in back at home basically.
Yeah,
um that's definitely interesting to me too. And but I think I don't know, like how do you just like once again, this is just like circling back to like friends and whatnot, and like what kind of like are these relation, do you feel the same about like these relationships, or do you feel like different from like do you feel like the differences do you feel like the people you met and the relationships you formed in like universities is more different to like the relationship you formed back in high school?
yeah, I think 100%. I think there is a difference.
Okay.
The difference is not always the same. It depends on the people you're talking to, but like,
Okay.
I feel like at when you make friends in primary school and you go to secondary school with them, there is like this very like there's this element of durability, and like, there's like a
Yeah.
hardened friendship there, like, like you've been through what you thought was the worst crap you could go through in
Yeah.
secondary school and primary school, right? Dealing with
Yeah. Yeah.
all the sorts of trouble you get into in school, and I feel like that really reinforces that bond because you're testing your friendship, right? uh
Yeah.
and like in university, I think the friendships are more cordial. It's like,
Okay.
it is, there are friendships, like, and you're not like being malicious when your friendships,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
are doing
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but really, your friendship hasn't had the chance to like really be tested, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is this like kind of, I don't know, kind of like weird atmosphere to it when you compare it to like your friendships back at home. But I think that's like
Yeah.
actually just part of the way it is, right? That's That's how
Yeah,
life is. Like
yeah.
you
It's
can't
not a
like
good thing nor a bad thing. It's just like it is
yeah,
what it is, kind of.
it,
Yeah,
it is what it is, right? Exactly.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure like I think you'd feel pretty much the same about it. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I think, like you said, I think there's this small gap where like there's this level of respect, like a level of respect kind of thing, which
Yep.
and I think it's just because like everyone here is like passionate in their own right, and I think they like you said, like there hasn't been. I think unless people are put in positions to be tested, like for example, like the friends I met in my first year, like we're still very very close. Like we literally live in the same building, for example, but
Mm-hmm.
like you can't have the same kind of relationship like with everyone, and I think
Yep.
that's okay too, like because but it's not like I said, there's no malice or there is no like I don't know, there's no hatred, there's not none of that. It's just how the atmosphere is, and life moves very fast over here, and you just need to think about the next step, and you need to just keep moving forward with like how busy things get, right? And I think it's just difficult sometimes to like maintain really like I guess we don't have the same amount of time to maintain the same level of relationships and the same manner.
Yep.
I think and I think sometimes like I do tend to miss like because I feel like we associate these friendships in different ways, right? Like especially in like Sri Lanka, like I associate all these people to home in some way or the other, right? And like recently, like I saw like a bunch of my friends like just go on a trip and whatnot sometime like, but like uh kind of like seeing all of this like it definitely kind of like gets to you, like if I'm being like really vulnerable and honest, because
Yeah.
it's like okay, like these people are kind of making these memories, and like sometimes like you get it right. I think like there's a 10.5 hour difference between like the time over here EST time and Sri Lanka time, and it's sometimes it's really hard to like really build this relationship up, and no matter how much you talk or no matter what it is, that being around that person in a physical environment and just like interacting with them over there, there's a different touch and a different beauty to that. I think, especially in my first winter break, I was very like, because I didn't really form the strongest relationships at McGill. It was definitely difficult for me to kind of like see that through, and I think you become numb to it. But like at the same time, I feel like I definitely feel a bit bad kind of seeing it. It's not anyone's fault, but like it's just that you can't have it all, and I think you just have
Yeah.
to be comfortable with that over time, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Like I think like the fact that you said like you can't have it all, that's like my attitude to this whole thing, right? Like
yeah,
you can't please everybody, and this is gonna
yeah,
be the way it is throughout your life. And if you don't accept that, you're gonna have more problems going down the road.
yeah, yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah, and like going back to your point, like you say you still like you live in the same building as your first year,
Yeah,
friend.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that's actually like the best example of tested friendships you can have in college, right? Just like
Right.
when you come into freshman year, and like I still like when I was on campus, I still roomed with the four closest people I had during freshman year,
Yeah.
and those are the
Yeah.
friendships that I really felt were tested at college, right?
Yeah.
Like yeah, so like it's like y- when you go into freshman year or your first year of university, right? Everybody's like, we're wide eyed, we don't know what to do. It's
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
confusing environment for us. So like we're all like desperately looking for like some sense of security, right?
Yeah.
And the friendships you form in those first 3 weeks, I guarantee you will like last for the rest of your time at
For a
college,
while.
not
For a while.
if not for your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and like you have to like pay careful attention there. And I think I lucked out. Met a great sort of a batch of kids, and
Yeah.
they were passionate about what they were doing, and they were really helpful to me, and they've been awesome so far. But I think yeah, the first year, that's like a critical time if you want to like establish relationships. Yeah, I mean even
Yeah.
the first 2 weeks, not really the first year, because like once you're past that little like entry phase where people are getting comfortable with university,
Mhm.
after that it's set in stone essentially.
Yeah, yeah, and it's yeah. The nature of every other relationship is just some relationships you have like where like okay, it's from class to class. Like okay, you know this person till this class is done.
Yeah.
You probably don't see them ever again. It's a different dynamics in university, but I think something I definitely appreciate though. Like in university, it's just that the passion that people show. I think like one way or the other, it's like everyone's at the same level of passion at least. Like people will be doing different things, and it's like it's very inspiring in a certain way. Like you walk into a library, and it's like this is quite a nerdy thing to say, but like at the same time, it's true in the sense that like you see people like working on their stuff, and like it's not always all that public, but I think like it's very inspirational to and I think I don't know, a lot of people should I think appreciate that, especially like I've learned to appreciate that even more ever since like I started staying at home because you missed that social momentum of like going and like meeting
Yeah.
people around.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think like my personality like also took a huge change in
Okay.
college because
Yeah.
I've always been a very standoffish person. I am a standoffish person now because like
Yeah.
I'm a little bit like aloof sometimes, but that's
Yeah.
just the way I
Yeah.
am, and I don't intend
Yeah.
to change it up. But like that aside, I feel like I like the group of like 4 or 5 people that I met
Yeah.
freshman year, right? They were like super hard workers. They were very on time. They were
Yeah.
like they were like they basically took everything and like solve it out to its like lowest level of detail, like their time
Yeah.
schedules or the way they do their work. And I was not a person like that. I
Okay.
put in the minimal effort to get through high school, and I put in like when I went into college, I was like very last minute. Like there was
Yeah.
literally like physics
Yeah.
problem sets in my first year. I would start like an hour before deadline, right? And
Yeah.
like I would submit them like I would like essentially Gradescope has this like weird like I don't know if you use Gradescope, but it's like the way you submit assignments here in at Stanford. And
Okay.
I would use like the safety window, which gives you like a minute after the actual deadline to submit it, and I'd still
Okay.
be writing stuff.
Okay.
Right? So like
Okay.
that's
Okay.
the way I worked like my first quarter, right? And then I looked at these people and I'm like, they're putting so much effort in. Like I need to figure this out. They were doing research at the time. I
Yeah.
didn't even know what research was, right? And through those friendships, I actually like learned a lot of things, and like I feel like now I'm way more of an on-time worker. Like I start my problem sets early. I know that I'm not going to be able to pull the same crap as I did in high school because it didn't work my freshman year, right?
Yeah.
So you end up learning a lot from the
Yeah.
people you meet, and in college even more so because everybody there is they're driven and they're trying to make something of themselves in one way or the other. And
Yeah.
you're right. You do get inspired by seeing that, and it does change you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. So yeah, I mean overall, like, how do you like how like do you think leaving home has like what's your kind of like final verdict on that? Like, and what do you think? What do you think? How do you think people should think about like leaving home and like I don't think but my like I feel like it's a very tough decision to make, right? And I think like what do you think is like the final kind of like conclusion of like how people should genuinely feel about leaving home and just like how people should process that.
Yeah, like you're right. It is like a rough decision to make, but I feel at the same time, I feel like for a lot of people, it's not even a decision, right? It's just like something you have to
Okay.
deal with, right? Because
Yeah.
like if you want to be like somebody who's like a top authority and some like esoteric field that they don't have in Sri Lanka, there's no way you're gonna do it by staying at home, right?
Yeah.
And that's period, right? That's the end of it. So
Yeah.
like some people don't have a choice, right? It's
Yeah.
as simple as that, and it's just like you have to sort sit yourself down and sort yourself through these feelings of leaving family, leaving friends, and like understand that what you're doing is it's gonna benefit you down the line, right? If you do it right,
Yeah.
right? There's always this chance that you like it ends up not being what you think, but if it goes according to plan, chances are it's still gonna benefit you in your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean,
if it's something that you think you could also accomplish at at home with a similar degree of difficulty or even slightly more, and you like basically take that like cost and just you apply it to like being with your friends and being with your family, right? By staying at home,
mm,
like you really have to think through it and like decide, do you want to spend your time in Sri Lanka and like enjoy your relationships, or do you want to take that risk on and go to college and
yeah.
like risk building new ones and having to develop in this new environment, but also getting these a way wider range of opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be different for everyone because like
For sure. For
like
sure. For sure.
yeah, because like it depends on your family's financial situation. It depends on like
Yeah.
the health of your family members. There's so many factors that go into that, and I had it nice because I didn't have to support my family. My family was doing well, right?
Yeah.
So that decision for me was, to me, it doesn't really seem like a decision because like I was like, what, I'm going, like, it's not going to affect my family members
Yeah.
outside like the emotions involved with it. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, for some other people, it's going to have large impacts. So like, I guess I can't speak for like the whole majority of it, but
Everyone. Yeah. No. No. I think I was mostly just like wanting to know how you kind of like what's
yeah,
your final conclusion
yeah.
idea. Yeah.
And like
Um.
in the end, I'm like glad I did it. Like obviously, like
Yeah. Yeah.
the things I learned here that I wouldn't have
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I didn't leave Sri Lanka or Canada, right? Because I left
Yeah.
to the US, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and at the same time, there's also like now in retrospect, there are these spots like, oh, like I could have stayed in Canada and done this and that, and it surfaces
Yeah.
every now and then, but
Yeah.
like deal with it. It's just part of it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You're
It's
always
just part of the process.
I hate when
Yeah,
people say like, "Oh, you should go through life without regrets." I'm like, you're always gonna have regrets,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
such
yeah,
a dumb
yeah,
thing to say 'cause, like, there's always gonna be some choice. If somebody can like literally look
yeah,
back at like their entire life and tell me that there isn't one choice that they couldn't have changed,
yeah,
that
yeah.
you know they're capping. Like it's
That's
it's
BS.
not life,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 for sure. Like, so even for me, right? Like, it's like I always say, like I only saw my mother for like 10 days. Like, it's tough. Like this stuff is tough, and like you go back and you think about the opportunity cost, but like you said, like the stuff we learned over here and the opportunities, the internships, the people we met, and like all of that entire package, I would have missed out on that too. And whether I could kind of look back and say, okay, no, I would have stayed in Sri Lanka and like stayed with my mother. It's like it's a tough, like I can't, I'm not gonna, honestly, I'm not gonna say yes either, right? Like
Yeah,
it's something I had to do it. And like, and in essence, like it's not like my mother was never supportive or anything. They all wanted me to like really thrive and come here, and whatever for the things I wanted to do, I had to leave home, right? And
Hmm.
once you get like a scholarship opportunity or whatever, I think people should just consider taking it, because like at the end of the day, home is home, and you can kind of go back to it at any point. And I think like once that opportunity opens up for you, like the stuff you learn, because you're put in positions where like you have to learn this stuff, right? Like I was literally a pampered child back at home. Like I was, like I had everything given to me, right? Like meaning, like I'm talking about like emotionally, and like even like
you know,
even
your
things like
care,
just
you're
like
like, you know,
the
yeah,
care and everything, like the food and everything, right? And coming here, not like I've mastered the art of being an adult, but it's more of like I'm pushed to get to that point, And I don't think I would have been pushed and like, really like I don't know, drilled when if I was back at home, and like
yeah,
just because of circumstance. So that, I think, getting out of that comfort zone is just, that's the kind of like, I feel like that's just a beautiful thing that a lot of people should realize. And the reason is because the reason I want to emphasize on that is because I just feel like a lot of people who go to places where there is like this sense of familiarity, right? When I came to McGill, like people back in like my school didn't even know about McGill. Like it's like it's one of the most renowned institutions in the world, and like people don't know about it because it's not like spoken about, and a lot of people don't go here. And now like
yeah.
people would like ask me how to apply and stuff, right?
Yeah, you basically put it on
Um,
the map, right?
I yeah, I guess, but like but the point being that I came here as like with basically I just knew like one person when I came here, right? Like and I think it's been like a beautiful experience to start from like level zero. And I think
Mhm.
you can say the same for you, right? Like it's like you didn't, I'm pretty sure you didn't know, like it's not like you had the same kind of social like circle or whatever as soon as you stepped into Stanford. And I think we had to like really like build it up from scratch. And I think that's definitely a beautiful experience in my opinion, without like,
Yeah.
and like I feel like it would have been much different if I was surrounded with a lot of people I knew, you know.
Yeah. And being students who are like the first in our family to go to college, it feels like when you enter
Yeah,
college, like we're definitely on like level zero because we have to learn the whole experience from scratch.
the whole
But
thing,
there's
the whole
people
thing.
like above
Yeah,
you because like they've had parents attend the same institution. You know, they've
yeah,
had
yeah,
like
yeah,
they've
yeah.
been generational academics, and like it's it is this different culture, but like it's a risk you take on. I think it pays off more than not.
It
Right?
definitely pays off, and I think like you learn more about yourself than you would when you're alone. And I think you really live in your head more than you would if you were in a comfort zone. I think, and I think that's something I want to emphasize. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Like 100%.
yeah. So yeah,
Anyway, yeah, I think it's not a choice to be taken lightly, but you know, it is what it is. And if you want to make something of yourself, for most people, it is the case that you have to leave. And yeah,
for sure,
yeah. So, but I think that that kind of wraps up what you wanted to kind of voice on this.
for sure, for
Yeah,
sure. I think
we've been
so.
talking about this during editing sessions and stuff like that for a while, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's nice to get this on tape so that people don't listen to what we have to say about it. But
for
yeah, I
sure,
think
for sure.
that
It's a
concludes this episode of making the right play. And you know, for all the viewers, thank you for watching this far, and we'll see you on the next episode of making the right play.
see
And
you.
cut. Thanks for listening to another episode of Making the Right Play. You can find our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, Content. This will keep you posted on new episodes, bonus content, and blooper reels. We hope you make the right play.